Blake, talk to me about building trust with Justin, which I imagine would be crucial when filming some of those more difficult personal scenes.
Yeah, I mean, this movie was such a challenge because you have scenes that are deeply painful, dramatic, and physical, but you also have scenes that are full of levity and light and romance. And normally, when I see this type of character like Ryle on what's gonna happen, and you're like, that guy's full of red flags. But
Judge Lewis Lyman is handling a difficult moment in his courtroom. This case involving Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, Justin Baldoni, and Wayfair is clearly not the only matter on his schedule. Judges manage many disputes at once, often hundreds, but this one caused visible confusion on the court docket. The issue began when Blake Lively chose to submit full, unedited deposition transcripts as part of her response to Wayfair's request to keep certain testimony private. These filings included entire records, even though only small sections were relevant to the argument. What made this move more troubling is that parts of those same transcripts had already been submitted earlier in a different filing. Adding the full versions again served no real legal purpose. On top of that, several news articles were filed under seal, even though they were already public. At the same time, other documents that clearly contained sensitive material were not protected at all. Names, home addresses, private business details, financial figures, and internal company information appeared without any redactions. This happened while Blake was also asking the court to shield the identities of her friends. That contrast is hard to ignore. The public reaction, however, focused on something else entirely. Headlines did not mention the possible violation of a protective order or the exposure of private data. Instead, story after story claimed that Justin Baldoni was trying to drag Taylor Swift and Ryan Reynolds into the case for attention. Many outlets used nearly identical language, which strongly suggests coordinated messaging. This framing is misleading. When someone files a lawsuit and lists people as fact witnesses during discovery, the opposing side has every right to refer to those names in court filings. That is not an attack or an attempt to embarrass anyone. It is simply how litigation works. Justin Baldoni was not exposing anyone. He was pointing out that these individuals were already identified by Blake herself as having relevant information. The media's failure to explain this basic process shows a serious lack of care. Reporting on legal matters requires an understanding of court rules, not just catchy phrases. Presenting defendants as villains for asking that evidence remain public twists reality. If a person does not want messages, finances, or testimony seen by others, filing a federal lawsuit is the worst possible choice. Courts exist to examine evidence openly, so both sides can argue their positions. Throughout this case, any attempt by Justin, Jamie, Wayfair, or others to defend themselves has been portrayed as wrongdoing. That attitude ignores fairness. A courtroom is not a place where only one voice matters. No one gets special treatment because of fame or influence. Later, after many hours had passed, Blake's attorney asked the judge to temporarily seal the disputed exhibits. The request admitted that the necessary information was already available in redacted form elsewhere. This raises a serious question. If the shorter versions were enough, why submit the full documents at all? The timing makes it appear less like an accident and more like a response to Wayfair's argument, which directly challenged Ryan Reynolds' role and rejected the claim that he was uninvolved. Protective orders exist for a reason. Ignoring them is not a small mistake. When lawyers grow comfortable pushing boundaries without consequences, trust in the legal system erodes. That, more than any headline, is the real problem on display here. I believe the timing matters here. This all happened after Wayfair filed its paperwork first. If I had to guess, I think I know exactly what pushed Ryan on the edge and made him react so strongly. From watching this situation for a long time, it seems clear that nothing upsets him more than the truth coming out, especially when someone else points it out. Once Wayfair submitted document 1191, everything changed. That filing explained why certain materials should be unsealed and clearly described what had taken place behind the scenes. Kristen Bender did not respond right away. Instead, her filing showed up close to midnight. That delay makes it feel like her team waited to see Wayfair's move before deciding how to respond. Because Wayfair acted first, the details in that document appeared to be what really triggered Ryan. On the second page, it states that he quietly rewrote an important rooftop scene while using Blake's name. It also explains that he took part in meetings as her chosen representative and contacted outside parties during production. The document says it is reasonable to assume he acted with her approval and on her behalf. Even though he was not questioned under oath, the filing makes it clear he is a major witness who could be called if the case goes to trial. He was also listed in her official disclosures. That is the part that seems to have angered him the most. Hours later, a flood of unrelated material suddenly appeared on the docket. Articles, declarations, and other paperwork were attached that had little to do with the core issue. Full transcripts were included without removing private details like home locations. None of that was necessary. It looked chaotic and careless. While reading the testimony from Justin and Hamey, one thing stood out. There was repeated focus on a single article that was not about Blake at all. It centered on Ryan rewriting a scene. Blake herself revealed this on the red carpet during an interview. That information had been kept quiet for a reason. A writer connected to the Guild is not allowed to secretly write scenes for another film without a proper agreement. That rule exists to protect everyone involved. Justin testified that he believed he was passing along a message that came from Ryan after a story appeared in the press. That article only existed because Blake mentioned it publicly. Wayfair did not create that problem. The backlash followed because people questioned why a Guild writer would work uncredited on someone else's project. Later, private comments Ryan made in a tense meeting somehow appeared in the media during a period when both sides had agreed to calm things down. The strikes add more context. During the writer's strike, filming could continue only if nothing in the script changed. No new dialogue, no improvisation. Ryan, however, continued filming his own movie overseas throughout that period and stopped only when actors officially walked out. He had more reason than most to pause work, yet he did not. Justin, who was not part of the writers' union, followed the rules as they were explained to him. The difference between the two men is clear. Justin seems careful, emotional, and overly worried about upsetting others. Ryan appears to operate by different standards. When someone points that out, he reacts badly. Releasing those transcripts feels like an attempt to shift blame, stir sympathy, and distract the public. Taylor Swift's name has been used as bait again, even though she had little to do with the real issues. The truth is simple. No outside person influenced this film more than Ryan did, and the documents only reflect that reality. They are scared, and the reason is simple. He does not want his private messages to become public. He knows those texts are likely going to be opened for everyone to see. Instead of dealing with that honestly, the response looks like panic. The thinking seems to be, if my messages come out and make me look bad, I should act like I am the one being attacked. So the plan becomes playing the victim in front of reporters. At the same time, private details such as home locations get dropped into public court records, knowing full well how dangerous that can be. The result is predictable. Online extremists and overly obsessed fans now have access to personal information. The story being pushed is that someone is threatening Taylor Swift, trying to expose her, or targeting an innocent person connected to her. That framing stirs emotions and sends angry people in one direction. It turns a legal disagreement into a personal safety risk. In my view, the legal team behind this move badly misjudged how serious the consequences would be. Today, the judge made an important decision. He agreed that the disputed documents will stay permanently hidden from public view. He also responded to Wayfair by saying their letter will remain private for now, while he reviews concerns about confidentiality and possible violations of court rules. That ruling alone shows how serious the situation became. The court clearly sees that lines may have been crossed. What stands out even more is how quickly the same people who caused the problem rushed back to the judge to undo it. Suddenly, the message was, "You can seal those papers. We didn't actually need them." That shift says a lot. Instead of asking for permission first, they acted without approval and then asked for forgiveness after the damage was done. That usually happens when someone realizes they have been caught and understands the risk they now face. Even though the judge sealed the records, the harm cannot be erased. The personal details are already out there. Major magazines are discussing the depositions. Anyone determined enough can still find the information. The danger remains because the narrative has already been released into the public. Using Taylor Swift's name as fuel makes the situation worse because it draws intense attention from people who may not think rationally. In my opinion, this tactic was meant to distract and intimidate. It looks like an attempt to redirect public anger toward Justin and Jamie by portraying them as threats. That is reckless. When emotions are stirred at this level, someone can get hurt. Courts exist to resolve disputes safely, not to turn them into public pile-ons. I hope the judge seriously considers penalties. Ignoring court protections should never be treated lightly. If this behavior continues without consequences, it sends a dangerous message that rules do not matter. That is how situations spiral out of control. To me, this nuclear reaction has already backfired. Instead of protecting anyone, it exposed poor judgment and raised serious concerns. I am curious how others see it. Do you think this move helped, or did it make everything worse?